the list of today's discussion are issues pertaining to the aviation strike that actually came to an end yesterday evening after a couple of hours where we experienced a stalemate at the JKA that saw both local and international travelers not necessarily getting a chance to travel. Of course, this was an issue that saw the CS for Transport, that is Davis Chirchir, going to a closed-door meeting with officials and aviation workers to see to it that they get a way forward. And some of the resolutions of that meeting, at least as of today evening, were as follows: that they had received the most pertinent documents as requested by the union. They were able to see to it that they get the documents that were stipulating the proposals in that agreement, and they said they would be looking into those documents for the better part of for the next 10 working days, and after that they would reconvene and issue a way forward. Of course, there was also a proposal here saying that the way forward shall be determined by the outcome of our engagement on the same. We shall be represented in all negotiations by two people. Unionists saying that in those particular negotiations they will be represented by two people, and each and every single one of those meetings they have to be present so that they can air out the views on the same. That the parties shall not enter into any final agreement or append their signatures without concurrence with Kenya Aviation Workers Union. Remember, the CS reiterated that what Kenyans have been able to see are just proposals. No pen has been put to paper. There was also an agreement right there that the Kenya Airports, or the Kenya Airports Authority, and the Kenya Airways PLC management should expedite collective bargaining agreements negotiations within 2 months. This is an ongoing process as they continue to find a way forward with regards to this deal, and there shall be no victimization in either parties as a result of the strike. Earlier court case by the Kenya Airports Authority against the union on the strike on the 12th of August 2024 should be withdrawn. Case number also stipulated. Those are just some of the issues they're able to agree on, even as they look for a way forward in the next coming 10 days or so. Also on the political front, we saw issues pertaining to political parties, and that is ODM. ODM, that is the Orange Democratic Party, chose to go the traditional way, as is expected in most of their operations hierarchy, tax precedents. And Raila Odinga has, of course, handled that mantle to Kisumu Governor Anyang' Nyong'o to be handling matters pertaining to ODM as he focuses on his campaigns with regards to the AUC chairmanship. This was, of course, expected to some extent, but then again, the young members of the party are also feeling that it was time for the party to actually look into considerations of having young people take that leadership mantle, but that is not necessarily the case. Reasons were also given as to why they decided to settle with Governor Anyang' Nyong'o. We'll also be looking into this, as well as issues pertaining to the planning of the government in terms of the budget as we move on. So stick around. Our social media lines are up and running. Keep sending your sentiments, and I'll see if I can sample some of them as we progress on. Let's just have a look at some of the stories that are making headlines as we continue with the broadcast. Now, transport was paralyzed at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport on Wednesday as aviation workers downed their tools, demanding transparency from the government over the JKA Adani lease deal. Hundreds of travelers were forced to go back home after their flights were cancelled. Brian Amoy reports on a day-long strike that left travelers stranded.
After a day-long meeting to resolve issues raised by the Kenya Aviation's Union, transport at the nation's largest airport is set to resume after the union agreed on a return-to-work formula with the Ministry of Transport late Wednesday evening.
Program ya kurudi kazi, labda kuna wale wanahitajika kuwa kazi saizi, hamko kwa uniform, tunaomba KAA management lazima iwafacilitate. Kama ni wale wanataka kwenda nyumbani, uende uoge, ukuje kazi. Sina sawa sawa? Yes. Sababu tumekuwa hapa tangu juzi, sisi hata mimi sijaoga.
The kind of airports we see in developed economies to be able to create a kind of opportunities by attracting more visitors into our country. The challenge we have had in not having to communicate, I think we've had the challenge of communication as a government. And today and over the past few weeks, We have attempted to communicate.
The agreement arrived at by the Ministry of Transport and union leaders has, however, not quelled the discontent among workers.
Hatujesema sisi tumekubali Adani. Haya, tulia. Pili, tutapewa kura ya turufu, veto power, ambayo kalamu yetu itahitajika ndio isonge hatua moja wapi mbele.
Documents have been made available to us, most pertinent documents as requested by the union. We undertake to go through them within 10 days, working days, and flag out areas of our concern which shall immediately be pointed out with a view of jointly engaging in discussion with the government, Kenya Airways, Kenya Airport Authority, after we have flagged out our concerns.
The workers have been given veto powers to halt the deal at any point if their concerns are not addressed.
The parties, that is government, Kenya Airport Authority, shall is mandatory, shall not enter into any final agreement or append their signatures without concurrence with the Kenya Aviation Workers Union.
The government has, however, defended its decision to get into the Adani deal, which they say will upgrade the airport.
We have a PPP Act which allows private investors to seek opportunities to invest. And when this is done, we do negotiate on certain parameters. We negotiate on what you might have come to understand as what would be the return on equity we are going to allow them. We negotiate on the debt-equity ratio because ordinarily equity is expensive.
The explanation from Children, however, wasn't received well by the workers who heckled him, chanting,
It will include taking the concession agreement to Cabinet. And I want to assure you, Cabinet is here to protect the interests of our Kenyans. Unajua, yoni sawa, mutanisikiza na nitawasikiza pia, hakuna shida.
The Adani question is still a subject of conversation with workers given 10 days to go through the documents they had requested. Martin Opio, K24 TV, Nairobi.
Now, away from the troubles of passengers at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, other major airports across the country were also hit by the airport workers' strike. Passengers at the busy Moi International Airport in Mombasa were left stranded for the better part of Wednesday, with similar scenes replicated at the Kisumu and the Eldoret International Airport. As Timothy Simo now reports, Kenyans have expressed their anger and frustration over the handling of the strike by the government.
At the Moi International Airport in Mombasa, passengers arrived early enough for their check-in, but it was not business as usual at the coastal city airport. Some passengers lamented scarcity of information about their flights, delayed flights forcing them to reschedule, while others demanded refunds to make other travel arrangements.
Now we're here to suffer. My flight is delayed. I will miss my wife, and she probably divorces me when I come to Kisumu. That's the result of their action.
Nasikia wametudisappoint sana. Like, kuna watu ambao wanafanya vitu za maana. Unaona? Wangefanya efforts at least, hata kama ni kungoja ingekuwa kama 1 hour. Lakini hiyo 3 hours na hata tujapata hata anything like a message.
They want the national government to rethink its decision of leasing JKIA to Adani Group.
Line mingi zime-cancel, so tuko standstill. And we're still here, pole pole, until we get that from our SG atuambie imeisha. If they talk, because sisi ni union members, we have our leader who is the SG most njema, wakati atatuambia hii maneno imeisha, that is when we'll go back to work.
We're fighting to keep our jobs. And number 3, we are fighting to avoid being colonized again, especially by Indians. We can't afford to be colonized again by Indians. Hiyo tumekataa.
At the Kisumu International Airport, workers joined their colleagues in other major airports in solidarity. Passengers who normally use the facility for domestic flights were left stranded, with some opting to use bus transport to reach their destinations.
When your mother is being hurt, also the children have to come out and defend their mother. So we are defending our mother. Our mother is JKIA. Yeah. We eat from JKIA. We don't eat from Kisumu International Airport. So JKIA is our home. And JKIA is our father, is our mother, and is our everything. So in short, we are telling the government, go away with your dirty deals of Adani. Go, go! Go, go!
At the Eldoret International Airport, transport remained grounded, just like in other major airports, and the chorus about their dismay remained the same. We are opposed to Adani takeover, they chanted. Some passengers were forced to return home after long hours of waiting to no avail.
Hapa mwendo wa saa 1 asubuhi nikitarajia kusafiri saa 3 na dakika 5 Kenya Airways kuelekea Mombasa. Na hadi saa hii simefika saa 5 karibu na dakika 20 hatujapata information yoyote.
On getting the JKIA being managed by foreigners, we are all concerned. We need to get to know what does it mean. 30 years is quite a long time, and we don't even understand what will that mean to us and our children and our country as a whole.
Workers at the Uasin Gishu-based airport also kept off their working stations. Timothy Simwa, K24 TV.
The Investigations Department is continuing its inquiry into the fire disaster that destroyed a dormitory at Hillside and Arasha School, which resulted in the deaths of 21 students. Investigations have been questioning staff who were present on the night of the incident. Among the main questions is the whereabouts of the school's matron during the event. Meanwhile, the eagerly awaited autopsies of the victims have been postponed to allow parents to view their children's bodies for closure purposes. Mariam Jahid tells us more.
Questions have arisen about the whereabouts of the staff responsible for security on Thursday night when the fire consumed the dormitory at Hillside and Arasha School, killing 21 students. The Intelligence Department, which has been stationed for the 6th day in the school, has begun investigating claims that the dorm matron was not present that night. As final preparations were underway at the Naramoru Level 4 Hospital mortuary, parents who had lost their children gathered, waiting to view their children's body for emotional closure. Teams from various organizations such as Cambry, the Red Cross, Nyeri County Government, the Homicide Unit, and the Chief Government Pathologist were briefed about the process before it officially began. However, the examination was postponed after parents requested to see their children's bodies.
We have a big team of doctors, investigators, and analysts from Cambry and from government chemists. And it's a hope that with that team, we'll be able to finish the autopsy tomorrow.
Odwor explained that the examination will start tomorrow with a large team of doctors and experts from Cambry and the chief government pathologist to expedite the process.
We have many relatives who are coming in and they want to view the body, so we decided that to give them closure so that now we can start the process. Autopsy is a process which involves families also. So to give them that closure and have us walk the journey with them, we give them the day-to-day just to view, to have closure, so that now tomorrow morning we start the process afresh.
The families of the victims were also provided with psychological support after viewing their loved ones' bodies to help them cope with the profound emotional shock caused by the disaster. The autopsy is expected to determine the cause and manner of the victims' deaths and to link the evidence collected at the closed Hillside and Arasha School. Meanwhile, the Ndarasha community has announced protests to be held tomorrow, claiming that the government's report on the number of the students who lost their lives in the dormitory fire is confusing. On the government's part, the Ministry of Education has warned schools that do not adhere to safety policies and announced the commencement of a crackdown on primary and junior secondary schools starting this week to ensure their buildings meet the required safety standards. Madam Jahid, K24, Nyeri.
President William Ruto says he will not sign any bill that will water down standards of integrity and accountability in the fight against corruption, referring to the Conflict of Interest Bill. This is after the EFCC recovered public assets amounting to 28 billion for the past 5 years. Bentura Kwamboka reports.
The government is set to propose amendments to Parliament that are set to address and seal loopholes in the fight against corruption and promote accountability in government.
The money was recovered from.
Among the proposed amendments that includes the Public Finance Management, Public Procurement Act, the Evidence Act and the Criminal Procedure Code seeks to expedite corruption cases and overhaul the public procurement sector.
I am told there is a mediation process that is going on in Parliament, but I have told them with clarity that I will veto any bill that does not establish a high standard of accountability, integrity, and anti-corruption measures, and I will fully exercise my powers under Article 115 of the Constitution to ensure that the bill meets the rigorous standards set out in the original draft bill.
Speaking during the handover of the recovered assets from EFCC at State House, Nairobi, President William Ruto lauded the anti-corruption body for the recovery of 28 billion shillings public assets.
The EFCC has also effectively intervened to prevent the loss of public funds amounting to an estimated 41 billion by deploying various strategies to disrupt corrupt networks. Additionally, I am encouraged that the EFCC is pursuing the forfeiture of unexplained wealth valued at Kenya shillings 59 billion through ongoing court proceedings against individuals whose assets and interests significantly exceed their non-legitimate sources of income.
And further to encourage the fight against corruption, Ruto has intimated on proposing amendments to the Witness Protection Act, vowing not to assent to any bill watering down standards of accountability and integrity.
We will propose amendments to the Witness Protection Act to revamp the statutory and institutional framework for protecting and incentivizing whistleblowers. We will also be proposing amendments to the Public Finance Management Act and the Public Procurement and Disposal Act, which has been identified as a key area of corruption, conflict of interest, and abuse of office in the public sector.
The EFCC has thus far recovered 18.71 acres of land valued at 5 billion shillings spread across different counties in the country, including 2 acres of judicial land housing the Kisumu Law Courts valued at 1.4 billion shillings, 3 parcels of lands belonging to the National Police Service in Eldoret, measuring 3.25 acres valued at 1.2 billion shillings, half an acre piece of land, part of the Kenya School of Law in Kilimani, valued at 700 million shillings, 1 acre belonging to the Uasin Gishu Referral Hospital in Eldoret, valued at 700 million shillings, 13 plots in Kisii measuring 8.06 acre property, valued at 300 million shillings, 3.4 acres of land belonging to Kisii County Government, valued at 135 million shillings, and 12 parcels of land spread in counties of Bungoma, Kakamega, Kisii, Kabarnet, Nakuru and Kitale. Cash assets recovered by the EFCC also includes 511 million shillings belonging to various organizations. 361 million shillings has been handed to the National Treasury Consolidated Fund, 79 million shillings belonging to the Kenya Ports Authority Retirement Benefit Scheme that was recovered from a law firm, and 70 million shillings belonging to Camry Retirement Scheme that was recovered from an individual. Bentura Kwamboka, K24, Nairobi.
Elsewhere, ODM's Central Governing Committee has delegated Kisumu Governor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o to chair the party's Central Committee as Raila Odinga intensifies his campaigns for the AUC chairmanship. The decision comes amid power struggles within the party, with several leaders eyeing the party leadership position.
With several leaders within the Orange Party salivating for the party leader position following Odinga's declaration to vie for the AUC chairmanship, leaders eyeing the top seat including Edwin Sifuna, Gladys Wanga, James Sorengo, Babu Owino and Simba Arati
The party's central committee, in a meeting chaired by Raila Odinga today, has designated Kisumu Governor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o to take over Odinga's role.
In light of the grueling campaign by our party leader and the need for him to focus on this for the AU chairmanship, he has designated His Excellency Honorable Peter Anyang' Nyong'o, the Governor of Kisumu, to chair any and such meetings of this committee, the Central Committee, that may become necessary during periods of his absence.
The appointment of Nyong'o came as a surprise to many, with the decision seemingly placing the county chief in an interim role, despite not declaring interest to being fronted to take over as Odinga's successor, if indeed he secures the AUC position. Despite Nyong'o being appointed to play Odinga's role within the committee, Sifuna maintains that Odinga is still the party leader, only that he needed more time to concentrate on his campaigns.
The Constitution does not allow any other person other than a person designated by the party leader to chair the Central Committee meetings. That is why he has designated the Honorable Peter Anyang' Nyong'o to do that job if a meeting is necessary when he's not there. But when he's around, he will continue to chair those meetings.
The meeting that was held today aimed at reaching a consensus regarding the party leadership if Odinga secures the coveted AUC post. Embakasi East Member of Parliament Babu Owino, through his social media platform, also declared his interest in the party leadership, claiming that he's the only one who can take President William Ruto in 2027 as the party's flag bearer. The appointment of Nyong'o throws a spanner into the works, and if at all Odinga eventually clinches the AUC's seat, Nyong'o will now be the front runner, having already donned Odinga's shoes by running party affairs on his behalf. Amid leadership wrangles across various counties, the Central Committee has summoned Kakamega Governor Fernandes Barasa, citing frustrating the party's changes in leadership at the County Assembly.
That the state of affairs in Kakamega County Assembly has now become unacceptable. The party has, via official communication, designated Honorable Geoffrey Ondiro as the majority leader. This directive has, however, been repeatedly frustrated by individuals led by the county governor, the speaker, and the former leader of majority, Honorable Maina. The committee has therefore resolved to summon the three to appear before it at a date to be communicated.
Ian Keitani, K24 TV, Nairobi.
Well, that's it for the news recap. It's time for us to take a short break right here on New Dawn. When you get back, we have a look at what is making headlines in our dailies. And as mentioned earlier on, we'll of course be having our panel right here to discuss with us. One of my guests is already in studio, Honorable James Gakuya, the Embakasi North legislator who also doubles up as the chair of the Trade Committee in the National Assembly. We'll be getting into it in just a short while and have a look at our papers. Let's take this break. We'll be back in no minute.
Follow the champions on the home of football. Watch the latest Man City content exclusively. Full match replays, extended highlights, coaches' interviews.
The target is not to win the Premier League, it's just, okay, next game, try to win it, this is what we have to do.
Players' interviews.
In general, the quality has been high and it's been good.
Behind the scenes and more. Every Saturday at 1 p.m. only on K24, the home of football. A dynamic, lively, inspiring and informative program which is hosted by Muyiwa Olarewaju.
God has validated you, has empowered you. And all you have to do is surrender.
It focuses on critical global social issues and powerful testimonies.
I lay there bleeding, potentially going to see Jesus. I called on him because I realized at 9 years old that I could.
While offering uplifting music from indigenous and international artists.